Good morning, everyone. I'm Dave Crouch, and this is Policy Talks, presented every month by Williamson, Inc., our county chamber of commerce here in Franklin. Just want to welcome our audience from WCTV Comcast Channel 3, along with the crew headed by Creed Henderson, who makes us look good every month. WAKM and Tom Lawrence make sure we get out there on WAKM AM 950. And we're also live streamed on YouTube video, so you can access us any way that's convenient for you. We enjoy having our audience with us. Look forward to being back into a live audience situation here in a couple of months over at Columbia State, but right now we're still virtual. And our guest today, Dr. Ken Moore, Mayor of the City of Franklin, and Eric Stuckey, our City Administrator in Franklin. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Dave. Thanks for having us.
Good to have you, and look forward to an update on Franklin. Mayor, I saw your State of the City address and was heavily impressed by the impact that COVID has had on our city and county, and all of the preparation and execution that went into dealing with that. Give us a little bit of a refresher on what you all covered in the State of the City and how many people were involved in that.
Well, good. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. And unfortunately, we had limited audience because of COVID, but we held it at a different location this year. We were outdoors for safety reasons. We had it at the amphitheater at Franklin Park. Now, that's not a park in Franklin. That is a business park that's at the corner of I-65 and McEwen. And a lot of people weren't even aware of the amphitheater. We had a number of guests that morning as we talked about the past year, the city, and how COVID has affected us, and also how we've continued to work through many issues here at the city. We did not shut down during the pandemic. I think having Mayor Anderson and Todd Horton on as a short panel, Mayor Anderson's leadership and Todd's leadership as far as the logistics of testing, as far as the logistics of getting shots in people's arms, and just I can't say enough about how good Rogers has done as far as leading all the city's elected officials, city managers during this pandemic. We were on phone calls sometimes every single day of the week, and later we got down to 2 or 3 times a week. And so there's lots of communication between all the cities and entities in the county. Then we had Kathy Montgomery and Dr. Andy Russell, who's the medical director at Williamson Medical, talk about the pandemic and the number of cases and the importance to continue to be vigilant, and also a lot of emphasis on people continue to get immunized. And they talked about the numbers. And then Eric and I had our opportunity to do some banter back and forth and talk about where we are as a city, what the projects are that are continuing to move forward, and what we're looking at for next year and the future. So I think it was very well received. The title was Making Lemonade Out of Lemons. And I think that we definitely have done that this past year. And to do that, a lot of people to stir it up and keep it fresh and keep going forward.
Really an impressive effort after, we heard all the hiccups with trying to find a place to do the vaccinations and the testing and that sort of thing, and how they finally got it staged out at the Ag Center. Kathy Montgomery mentioned that I think in the county now we've got they've given 85,000 vaccinations, 41% fully vaccinated. Dr. Russell, you're a doctor, so let me ask you this. But Dr. Russell made a statement that I found interesting. That maybe I should have asked him this, but he said that they have had zero serious adverse reactions to the vaccine at Williamson Medical. Uh, that's not what the rumors would have you believe from what's out there on the internet and, what you hear around among your friends. Uh, can you verify that? Is that accurate as far as, I'm sure it's accurate as far as Dr. Russell's experience, but is that accurate to your experience?
That's accurate to my experience too. I mean, you think about the number of shots that have been put in arms now. There always, no matter what the type of vaccine that you're giving, there's always going to be a very, very tiny percentage that may have some type of reaction. Most of us just maybe experienced a sore arm. Some people had kind of a flu-like syndrome after the second shot, but the majority of people was kind of a non-event. And I think that, we'll still be studying the effect of the immunization, how long you have immunity. We don't know that yet. And we'll see what happens. This is still a long process. This isn't one of those things that we turn the switch off. I mean, we still have cases of COVID. I noticed yesterday we had a handful of new active cases, and this thing is still around, and we could still have another uptick. So I think that the response is certainly partially related to the immunizations. Certainly a lot of the response and decline in cases is because people have heeded those distance warnings and staying away from crowds. And,
right.
Of course, the mask, I have been an advocate for the mask, continue to be so. But I know we've had our controversies about things during the pandemic, just like they did during the Spanish flu pandemic in 1918. People didn't like to put the mask on, and a whole bunch, 600. I mean, I've forgotten the exact number of people that died, but it was devastating. And not only was it devastating with death, but there were people that had post-flu syndromes. One of them that came out of that were people that had Parkinsonism, a certain type of Parkinsonism after they had that Spanish flu. So,
well, the COVID stole my sense of smell and taste, and I'm still not back to normal, and so I guess that's a minor issue, but I can take from what you're saying that you recommend that people get the vaccine.
Yes, I support vaccination. And if there's a question in your mind whether you should take it, whether you have some medical condition or whether you're pregnant or whatever, you should have those discussions with your doctor and make sure you're making that informed decision.
Right. Now, Eric Stuckey, your role in this COVID response was to support the county's team out at the Ag Center with our city personnel, and tell us a little bit about what our first responders and police, fire department, how they took a role in that.
Sure, and thanks for having us today. Yeah, it was a team effort on every level. Of course, we continued to provide a high level of service in everything we did with providing safeguards for our team members, for the public, et cetera. But specifically around testing and vaccination, we played a role in helping with the traffic flow in and out of the Ag Center, which is of course located in Franklin. Our paramedics were an active part of the distribution and oversight of vaccines, as well as help with the testing timeframes, et cetera. But we really pitched in together. And one of the things that the big lesson that I think you see out of this is that the relationships and collaboration that you see between the county and the cities with one another really came to the forefront. The fact that we had good working relationships going in, we were able to build on those and make those even stronger, work together, navigate this thing together, and do it in a way that really stayed focused on serving the community, keeping people safe and as well as we could, and just learning and adapting and being resilient as stuff came our way. And we did that together. And, you know, if we didn't have the good relationships we had coming in, it might have been rockier. But we certainly found ways to work together, solve problems, and really honored to be part of that team effort, and proud of our team and how they stepped up to continue to serve the community in really unique circumstances.
I would highly recommend that people go to YouTube and watch the State of the City, Franklin, Tennessee video. And because it was a huge effort, and you all described it very well in that presentation. So thanks for all you all do on that, and we look forward to everyone else appreciating that as much. The last thing that struck me in the State of the City is that things are very rapidly coming back to normal. You gave away some tickets, I believe, to the Pilgrimage Festival. And so that is back on the agenda this year. Main Street Festival, I think, is back on the agenda. Bluegrass on the Harpeth, Franklin on the 4th. Is there anything not back to normal yet? Where are we, gentlemen?
We're pretty well back in full swing, and we never stopped serving. That's for sure. We had to do it some different ways, but you know, our offices are completely open. We do have some additional physical safeguards in place, and of course, like we've had for months and months, there's lots of hand sanitizer everywhere, and we don't require the mask, but we do tell people if they're not vaccinated, we urge them to wear it. But we're just following CDC guidelines like we really have throughout. And, you know, our fully vaccinated staff, we're saying, hey, you know, make your own decision, but you're able to function without the mask if you are fully vaccinated, again, based on those CDC guidelines. We're planning, like you said, we're planning for pretty much full scale community events and festivals the second half of the year. The organizers of the pilgrimage were in town this week, and we do some pre-planning and walkthroughs with them, and thinking through different elements of the logistics of a large scale event like that. And they shared that they've already sold over 70% of their tickets here in late May, which is pretty impressive. So they look like they're well on their way to a complete sellout of the event. And of course, just like they are, just like us, thinking of what safeguards do you continue to provide, but with the prevalence of vaccination and people taking the right steps, we can return to more of a normal situation. So we're excited to do that because we love bringing the community together. It's one of the things that makes Franklin special. And so we're excited to have those rolling again.
You know, we've got Memorial Day Monday. And so that, I guess that's the first big major event. And then Juneteenth, there's a big celebration there.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we're coming back. I mean, we still don't have everybody back in the office. We still are working toward that, but I think everything's primed and ready to have a great rest of the year.
All right. Very, very good to see us back to normal. I'm going to pivot back to Eric here just a minute, Mr. Mayor, but Eric, you were also covering the capital projects that the city has underway. A lot of big projects going on around town. The city is responsible for some of them. Other entities are responsible for others, but looks like Mac Hatcher, I guess I ought to ask the mayor this one. It's one of his favorite subjects, but when is Mac Hatcher, when are we going to be able to drive on it, Mr. Mayor?
I think this fall, possibly September. Yeah. So that's exciting. I mean, we've waited a lot of years. We put a lot of money into it, and the state's put a lot of money into it. So it's going to be a great celebration this fall.
Do we have any kind of event planned for that?
Well, I'm sure we will. I'm sure the state will have one. I think you'll see a lot of dignitaries show up for that one, just like we did whenever we broke ground for it.
That may be the biggest one yet, but
We'll even have one of our aldermen who's former TDOT commissioner there, I bet.
I bet so. And you might ought to sell tickets to it. They might sell pretty well. But Eric, give us a rundown on the other projects like Franklin Road, the sidewalk projects.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Franklin Road is well underway, as folks probably can tell from some of the traffic pattern impacts, but that project is well underway. And we actually did something unique with that, where we provided a bit of an incentive, actually a direct incentive for timely or a certain time frame of completion of the project. So if they're able to complete it in 18 months, they will get a pretty significant bonus associated with that, because we recognize there are costs to us, to the public, community overall, to having projects drag on. And sometimes public projects get put further back in the list because financially, it is what it is. Well, we wanted to put something on the table that would get their attention and put it higher on the list for the contractor to get it done. We think that is helping, and that project could be complete probably somewhere around next summer, we hope. But you always go through a lot of different elements of a complicated project like that, but it's moving along well. The trail along 96 West will be complete by the end of this year. That will connect all the way from the west side into downtown, give people a chance to walk, bike, jog into downtown, and really be a great connection too between some of the schools and parks on the west side of our community. So it's just a great improvement there, and a partnership with the state. The biggest one that you don't really see is moving along really well, which is our water reclamation wastewater treatment plant, where we are expanding the capacity from 12 million gallons a day to 16, and also just upgrading our state-of-the-art technology to even a higher level. We already treat at about the highest level in the state in terms of the water we treat and put back in the Harpeth River, and we're going to do that even better with some of the emerging technology we're bringing online. And actually, elements of that are already starting to work. But a year from now, that plant should be fully operational, and is the largest project in the history of the city of Franklin. So that's a big one and important.
What's the capacity are we treating at now out there?
We're treating about 12 million gallons a day
already.
And so we'll go up to 16. Yep. So the other one, a couple other things I'd highlight. We've got a lot going on with moving forward on the Southeast Park. We're building a bridge and an access into that Southeast Park area. That's 200 plus acres that will be both active recreational fields to the south and more passive park area to the north. But we've got to get access to it. So we've got to build a bridge across the Harpeth. And that is well underway and moving along well to get that in place so that we can build that. That will also include our first ever full-scale inclusive playground. And we're really excited to have that going as well. So there's so many things going on.
What is a fully inclusive playground?
So it provides lots of different play elements for people of all different abilities and ages to interact together. There are some things, if you've got certain physical challenges, that might be hard for you to interact in a traditional playground. So this gives more access and ability for children and families that have some of those special needs to play and enjoy the park together. So it really makes the whole park work for the whole community, which is the goal. So, and I think that'll be a great partnership. There's been a lot of interest in the community in supporting this effort. And I think you'll see that be a pretty special public-private partnership to bring that great amenity to our community.
Out in that same area, I understand you're planning the overpass over I-65 there at Long Lane, and just completed the fire station number 7. So that part of town is a pretty active area right now.
It really is. It's one of the fastest growing areas in our city. A lot of new residents coming in there, and we need to provide that infrastructure, be it parks, public safety, and Fire Station 7 is a great example of another partnership. It is a Franklin Fire Department fire station, but we also have co-located Williamson County Emergency Medical Services. So the paramedics operate out of there as well. And so we did that together. Again, a great way to work together, serving the community. And that opened up in early May. So we're thrilled to have that going. And then talked about the park. The overpass is in design phase now. And so we're working on that, and that will help connect east and west sides across the highway, give an alternative there. We're also going to improve the intersection where that will ultimately connect at Lewisburg. So it should improve the network for people getting to and from the east and west side in our southern portion of town.
Does that mean we'll have another traffic light on Lewisburg Pike?
You will have another one there to make that fully work on the northern end of the Berry Farms neighborhood.
Oh, goodness. I'm sure that's necessary.
We'll time it up right, I promise you.
Back to you on Columbia Avenue. It was mentioned, and I'm going to, this is my, I guess, my Chamber of Commerce hat back on. Some of the business community aren't crazy about those plans out there, because that's kind of the last bastion of locally owned businesses, maybe outside of the restaurant industry. If you want to get your car repaired, body shop work done, tires, those are all the last of the locally owned businesses out there on Columbia Avenue. And a construction project would be very difficult. And I was going to ask Eric a minute ago how long the Hillsborough Road project took, but now that we're back to Columbia Avenue, how long would a project like that take? And what's the status of that project, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah. Well, I think we can both respond to that. Currently, Columbia Avenue is actually in final design, and we have worked very closely with all the property owners along Columbia Avenue. This is a fully funded project with the money designated specifically for Columbia Avenue. I think we could look at other projects that we've had, such as Hillsborough Road and currently Franklin Road, and see that there are a lot of efforts made to make sure that those businesses have full access to the public, and the traffic will be managed as best we can to make sure that those businesses continue to be viable. There has been a lot of dialogue with those businesses. That doesn't mean that everybody's 100% happy with that. But if you look at the traffic counts, this is something that really needs to be done.
Yeah, when we look at the data, that the traffic flow and it is one of the poorest functioning roads in the whole community in terms of traffic flow and safety. And this will improve that. We've tried to work real closely with the businesses in the area about sidewalk access to help provide that does not exist for the most part along there. So we think in the end it will be a great improvement. It is always challenging to get there. We have been really conscientious about working about access points and continue to keep businesses viable both during the project and after the project. And we've talked specifically about how we time construction and are there ways to both expedite it, things like we're doing on Franklin Road to incentivize that the project moves along quickly, and also do work on off hours to help make it less disruptive to active businesses. So we're going to do everything we can to lessen the impact, but there's always disruption when you change and upgrade a roadway. But the end result, I think, will be really positive for businesses and for the community. We just got to get from here to there. It's a couple years away from bidding, and then construction we'll have to see exactly, but I think you're looking at an 18 to 24 month construction period. And again, we'll work with how we stage that and phase it in so that we can lessen impact as much as we can for those businesses.
Any updates on the southwest leg of McHatcher and how that might interact with this at this point?
Well, it's ultimately pretty far away in the TDOT world in terms of funding. That is not really anywhere on the horizon. I think it's more likely to see expansion of the southeast leg before you see the southwest added. And actually, there is some preliminary engineering work going on for the southeast expansion, which will be helpful. That's an area that bottlenecks quite a bit too. So I think their priority is take care of what you've got and get it to the right place from capacity standpoint before you add the new roadway. They've done some preliminary alignments on Southwest, but that's pretty much it at this point. So it's pretty far off in the distance. Again, a pretty sizable state contribution project to make that happen.
Right. Mayor, you're part of a mayor's council, and I've not remembered the name of it, but that all the Middle Tennessee mayors meet and divvy out the federal funds many of the federal funds that come down here from Washington for highway projects and that sort of thing. Is there anything bubbling up through that group that you could share with us that we might see on the horizon here soon?
Well, you're referring to the Transportation Policy Board, which I do sit on along with other mayors within the region. And you're absolutely correct that that's part of the federal funding process, is that these projects have to be brought through this Transportation Policy Board. We work very closely with the Federal Highway Department and also Tennessee Department of Transportation. Also, our staff, each mayor's staff would have an input as far as future projects. I think one of the highlights is we rank those projects as they get ranked based on various methodologies. Southeast Mac Hatcher has received money now, and that's always a good sign whenever you start getting engineering money that project is going to continue to move forward. Maybe not as quick as you want, but that means it is moving.
Well, in Washington now, they're talking about a almost $1 trillion infrastructure bill that it seems to be getting a little traction. I think the Republicans came out and said they could support $928 billion bill yesterday. Typically, those kind of bills support shovel-ready projects. Do you see any of that money actually landing in Franklin to advance any of the projects we've got on the drawing board?
Just off the top of my head, I can't think of a specific project, but I'm sure that we're going to have, if there is federal money for infrastructure, that we would be working very hard to make sure that we got our share distributed to us. You know, we have lots of bridges that need repairing. We have other road projects. We never have enough money to do all of the projects we have. I think my concern with big infusion of federal money for infrastructure, just like this current federal money infusion, sometimes there's not a lot of flexibility with it. And that's what we're finding out with this most recent tranche of money that we're seeing. And also when it's a federal project, federal highway project, it adds additional time to projects. And of course, we have federal money on McEwen Phase 4, and that's added somewhere, year to 2 years on that project because their requirements are much more extensive to do a project. It's easier for us to do a project if we've got the money. We can move it along much faster. If you have TDOT involved, it's a little slower. Then if you have federal highway involved, it's much slower. Just more hoops to jump through and more verifications and re-verifications and repeat verifications and repeat verifications sometimes.
I think it could help us on Mac Hatcher. One of the things we did that helped us get the Northwest extension funded was we got it on the federal highway classification list. We got it put in a place that made it more eligible for federal dollars. So that same work we did to help the Northwest could help especially the Southeast expansion happen. So I would hope it might push along further projects that are already in the pipeline and maybe help them happen sooner. But Mayor's exactly right. McEwen 4, we saw that. The good news is it's about a $40 million project, and we're getting 26 to 28 million of it paid by the federal government. That's great, but the timing and the some of the hoops you have to go through is sort of the price you pay for those dollars. And we always try to make a judgment call of, is it worth it? In that case, it clearly was, because we could have 3/4 of it paid for by the federal dollars, and it helps us get other local projects done because our dollars can be redirected to other priorities. So it's always a judgment call about what is the right fit, and that's what we'll keep looking at if additional opportunities come our way.
Okay, speaking of other dollars and other projects, you all had a meeting last night, and a big part of that meeting was addressing the plans for a new city hall. And tell us what to expect there, and what you've got in mind, and when we'll see something there.
Well, I'll start, but Mayor may want to chime in here, but we're really just starting a preliminary kind of concept plan element. So it's pretty early. We've done some public outreach. A couple of weeks ago, we did a virtual, what we call living room chat with the community to just talk about what's going on, what we're looking at, why we're looking at it, gather some input there. Then earlier this week at the BOMA meeting, and then last night at what we call the Joint Conceptual Workshop, which is both Planning Commission and Board of Mayor and Alderman members, we had some further discussion, and we're really just looking at what are the ideas that people want to see, how can we serve better through a new city hall on the square, but also make it fit. And the tagline we're using is complete the square, because the old mall building that we're in now, that we've been temporarily using as a city hall for 40 years, has really passed its prime and doesn't look and feel like the rest of the square. So how do we put something in there that is a great community building, a great community resource, and looks and feels like really one of the most special places in our community, downtown Franklin Square. So we're really getting in that gathering information standpoint. There's been lots of work with departments about what efficiencies they need and how they can better work together by how we position them next to each other, how they better serve the public by providing access areas and places to work with our team, depending on the type of customer and service that they need. And lots of those different things are also in the background that we're working on. So it's an early stage. There'll be lots of other opportunities for public involvement. We anticipate by this fall to have sort of an initial concept plan to share with the board, share with the community, and get some feedback. So some more feedback. So that we're in that early stage, but it's an important project and something that is probably I would guess probably around a 5-year horizon to get there, just because of all you have to do, but really important, a generational project for the community.
Just a question here, and go ahead, Mr. Mayor, tell us what you think it should look like.
Well, it shouldn't look like it looks now. I mean, it's our current building has no synergy with any of the buildings around it. I think you have to dream that it's going to fit in contextually with the historic courthouse as far as proportion and size, and also have some of the same architectural elements that other buildings around the square have. But I think the most important thing is that you build a building, number one, that meets the needs of the public, and number two, gives our great staff the working space that they need and the working environment that they need to provide the services they do. I think back about when we did the police building, and at that time, we had policemen working out of closets. And I'm not aware of anybody working out of a closet now. But I I am aware of areas of the building where people work that if we get too heavy a rain, they're going to have their umbrella out. And you walk around City Hall and you see we have roof issues, we have ventilation issues. So it's, you know, people would say, why don't you just remodel it? Well, we have looked at that in the past, and the cost to bring it up to where it needs to be tells us that it's better to tear it down and build up. So I visualize a vertical construction with several floors and probably additional parking. But again, we're still in that phase where we're figuring out space needs and things of that nature. I heard a lot last night about a plaza where people could gather. You know, all these are concepts that we'll have to look at and figure out as we move forward.
Has anybody explored that there might be a better place for City Hall than on the square? You know, for instance, you know, having to go there to get a building permit or deal with the codes department. Most of the building is not going on in downtown Franklin, I would argue. Just a question.
Well, I think always there's that question: is it better to go out and build on a green field? And we went through that exercise with the police building originally. You know, having City Hall downtown creates a vitality within the core of your city. I think that's important. I think whenever we looked at the police building, there wasn't a significant savings as far as moving it to a green field. I think having your City Hall downtown makes a statement to visitors. It makes a statement to our citizens, and we're going to provide the adequate parking and convenience for people to be able to come. People like coming to downtown Franklin. Why do you want to send them out to some green field somewhere else in town? Probably where there's going to be more traffic. You know, where would you put it? So, I mean, those are questions we always consider. We don't poo-poo those, but I think generally the feel of the community is that they want it back where it is now.
And it does really help us serve the community. We want it to be an activity center, a gathering place for the community. It's vital to the festivals that we serve now. It's a great kind of home base for those, an operational center. Things like you talked about with codes and permitting, we actually do a lot of that online anyway. You know, and we find ways to meet people where they are and provide as convenient services as we can. And that's going to continue. But there is, I think the mayor makes a great point about the vibrancy and being part of the hub of the activity of our community, and having City Hall in the midst of that is a real positive. We already own the land. That helps too. And there are ways to reconfigure this 4 acres we sit on to have more community benefit than just a City Hall. There can be some additional commercial space that brings some activity to the first floor, et cetera, that can be very beneficial to downtown too. So we see some real positives in maintaining that presence and stay connected to that vital part of our community.
Great.
Listeners, they could go to completethesquare.com and take a survey and help us understand what they feel City Hall should be and what kind of services it should have.
Very good. Our time's flying, and I've got a lot of other things I'd like to get into, but one significant thing we need to talk about is the budget. You all are in the budget process. I think you've had the first reading and got a couple other readings coming up this month. Yeah, I started to read all 468 pages of it, but I hope you'll forgive me if I didn't read the whole thing. But give us an overview of what the budget looks like and how it may be a little different than previous years.
Well, we really
real quick. It's balanced.
Yeah, that's right.
So then I'm going to give it to Eric.
Yeah, most importantly, it is balanced. One of the things we started thinking about really early on in the pandemic is how we emerge from the pandemic. And so we really focused over the last year of how we both plan for the challenges that might be coming our way, but also how do we respond and come out of it even stronger. You don't go through what we've all gone through individually or as a community or as a city organization and not be changed. And we wanted to be changed in a way that made us stronger, more resilient, more sustainable going forward in everything we do. So we really tried to focus on that. We're in a better position financially than we feared a year ago. That's positive. And services have been maintained, and we're looking at how we move forward to support projects, support our team, and continue to provide a really high level of service to the community. The numbers are basically the overall budget, all things rolled into one is just under $167 million. That's just under 2% increase over a year ago. Our general fund budget is at $84.5 million. That's a little larger increase because we've got some one-time federal and state money that's there for COVID response, COVID impacts that came from federal and state that is one-time money going into that budget. And so that's a little bit, that's like a 9.8% increase, but that one-time money is really the driving force there. Our property tax rate is dropping because of revaluation. We are not increasing property tax at all. So folks in Franklin will see their city tax rate go down about 9.15 pennies per $100 of assessed valuation. So it's going to be in the 32-cent range for city taxes. So generally, even if your value goes up, the rate gets recalibrated down so that you're generally paying the same amount of dollars in taxes that you paid previously under the old valuation. Now that might fluctuate slightly just because if your value grew at a greater rate or a lesser rate than the whole, then that might shift slightly, but it is designed to keep your taxes at generally the same rate dollars it was that you paid the previous year. The key things we're doing is really maintaining operations through a tough time and looking at how we move forward to support the projects that we talked about, both in terms of funding them, but also delivering on them, having the staff to support, oversee, and make sure they get implemented properly. We continue to we expanded updated our recycling program. Over 14,000 households got on board with that. Our goal was 10,000. So we see that people are responding well to the services that we're working to provide them. So, those are some of the key highlights. We're like the mayor said, it is balanced. We also try to look 3 to 5 years out, and we look to be in good condition there to be able to sustain everything that's in this budget. We're doing some creative things with our city fleet, working with a third-party partner to have updated fleet that we work through with a financial arrangement with them that will get us newer vehicles and rotate them through on a probably more timely basis than we do when we're doing our old-fashioned replacement cycles, because those are subject to the ups and downs of budgets in a given year, like we saw last year. And we really think that'll be more sustainable and actually more efficient for us. So there are things we're trying to be creative on to keep providing great service.
Great. The couple of things I noticed in the budget, the employees are getting a raise this year. I believe 2.5% for some, and maybe even more than that for others. The one thing that struck me, you've got a fund balance, I think, of about 57 million after all said and done. City policy calls for about 28 million, so you got about 30 million extra dollars there. Are you just putting that away in the kitty for something for the future? What do you got in mind for that money?
So what we've got is, by policy, you're right. By policy, we have to have a minimum of 33% of our budget in reserves, and that's that 28 or so million that you talked about. Then the board also added on to that policy to say anything that's above 45% is eligible to help us to pay for capital projects as pay as you go, so that we don't have to borrow as much. So those dollars are going to help us deliver projects that we're talking about in terms of parks and streets projects. So some of that's already, while it's in the reserve, it's identified to help us pay for projects and not have to issue as much debt. So the 10-year capital plan that we did, when we did it probably 3 years ago, it was about 50-50 debt and cash sources. It's now closer to 40-60, meaning 60% of it is cash, 40% of it is debt funded. So that has helped us not have to issue as much debt to get these major projects done, which is good for the long-term viability of the community. We're not extending ourselves too much. You do want to spread it over time because some of these are very long-term projects, but it's good to balance it. And we feel like this helps us get the right balance there. So it does provide stability. We're sales tax dependent. So when the economy hits a downturn, we see it very quickly. So that is why we maintain a little higher reserves than maybe some cities do, but it also does help us fund projects.
Right. Mayor, one of our entities in the city that's very near and dear to your heart, Columbia State, is recipient of the funds to build building number 4 out there. And we're looking forward to being back out there as soon as they let us for these shows live out there, and look forward to that. But what do you see coming for Columbia State? How are things out there, and what do you see them looking like here next year?
Well, I think they've been preparing for the end of the pandemic and return of students. And, we've been advocating for another building for some time, and finally it's funded. And I anticipate that this campus will be the largest campus in the entire Columbia State complex. More students, greater services, and I applaud the work that they do working with our business community and working with our schools. I was out there recently, a young boy, they had a celebration. He's going to West Point. And what was interesting is this kid was homeschooled. And secondly, he had 50-something hours of college credit already that he had obtained through Columbia State. So I think that speaks volumes for the college. The other thing about the college takes me back to Alderman Bransford. Alderman Bransford passed, and we miss her every single day and the contribution she made to our community and to all the committees she was on and to the board. But through an effort working with Franklin Tamara, a scholarship was created in memory of Pearl. And that scholarship funding is at a $50,000 level now. So that's exciting. I'm sure we'll have some type of event to memorialize that and again recognize the great service Pearl gave to our city and also her passion for education in Columbia State.
Right. Pearl Bransford was a delightful lady, and we do miss her. We had another big event here about 6 weeks ago. It wasn't pre-announced. The Lord sent us an extraordinary amount of rain there in one day, and created the biggest flood issue we've had since 2010. What are our learnings from that? Are we seeing a need to do anything differently than we're doing now, or what's the future of downtown Franklin if the water keeps rising? So
I appreciate your bringing that up. We're currently working with the Corps on salvaging some homes, with raising some homes out of the floodplain. We're also looking at the bridge at Franklin Road. That bridge will be redone and elevated because it currently acts as a dam. That's going to relieve some flooding, take some additional homes out of there. So, I think that's all what I see on the horizon right now.
Well, and just in terms of response, our teams, you can tell they had studied well the lessons of 2010 and really responded well to what was coming. We were tracking it very, very closely. Fortunately, it did not quite hit the levels that the models were projecting, but we were prepared to try to help in any way we could in the areas that we know are typically impacted. So that's the other thing you do on an operational day-to-day standpoint is just know your typical potential problem areas, be ready to serve and help wherever you can in the more immediate term, and just track that and respond and follow. And our team did a great job of that, and they're well trained and schooled on how to do that and meet the needs of the community too. I'm very proud of them. I actually had to be out of town that weekend with some family matters, and they just did a fantastic job responding, and I got to listen in on some calls, but boy, the team did a great job.
I personally, of course, I've lived on the river now for 25 years, and so I maybe pay a little more attention to it than the average person. But I got a call about 3 o'clock that Saturday afternoon from my friend and neighbor Clay Mackey, and he said, "Dave, emergency management just let us know that this rain system looks very similar to the one that came through in 2010. You just might want to be ready." Well, I didn't get a call like that in 2010. I don't think anybody did. Yeah. And so I was impressed with their antennas being up and being ready to respond. They did have to fish a kayaker out of the river there right behind my house. So I got to see our emergency responders at work there too. But and I'm just going to put this out there. In the 25 years we've lived on the river, the biggest impact on the river levels was after 840 was built, because 840 created another 8 or 10 miles of about 8 lanes of pavement that has no floodwater retention on it. So all that water goes straight into the Harpeth River Basin. Same thing's fixing to happen out Highway 96 between here and Triune. And I guess all that water will come back through, is it Browns Creek, or what's the name of that creek that flows back toward Franklin from there? So just an FYI, you might want to look at possibly a retention pond or something out that way to kind of hold some of that water back. But
well, I know when every city road project, we very much look at stormwater impacts as we do them. Those are both large scale state projects. I assume they do, but I don't know. I'm not sure all the consideration they give it. I know we put a lot of time into it, and that's one of the elements we look at. And we typically try to improve the stormwater situation by adding facilities or enlarging facilities. When we do the roadway, we figure while we're at it, let's make it better in that regard. So I hate to see it go the other way with some of these large projects, but we try to be very conscientious about it.
Well, pardon the personal.
No, it is what it is, unfortunately.
Just one of my observations, and a subject that's near and dear to my heart. We love where we live, and but it does. It's a mess sometimes to clean up after those events. We're closing in on our time. Mr. Mayor, you made another announcement last Wednesday. Said your name is going to be on the ballot again in 2023. There's been a lot of chatter around town about whether that was going to happen and who could replace you. I don't think anybody can replace you, of course, but glad to see that you're going to run again. Tell us what went into that decision.
Talking to my wife. Yeah, I think it was a little early to announce, but I think there was a lot of rumor mill going around town, and plus we're going to have at least 4 new aldermen this election cycle, and there's some speculation that there will be additional turnover in 2023 with the at-large aldermen. So I just felt like it was important to get it out there that I have an interest in continuing to serve this community as its mayor. And certainly my first discussion was with my wife, and she understands my passion for serving the community and doing this job. And she gave me the go ahead. And so early on, I did waffle around a little bit in my mind whether I wanted to do another term if the people would reelect me. And fortunately, it became a little clearer to me that that was important for me. It was important for me to continue to try to serve the community. So I'm excited if the citizens will reelect me in 2023. I look forward to another 4 years.
Well, I can vouch that continuity is a good thing in government. As a former alderman and a keen observer of other aldermen over the years, it takes a year or two to really learn what you don't know about city government after you become an alderman, and learn how you can actually be effective and work with the other aldermen. So I think the continuity will be good, and wish you luck on that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Day.
Well, Eric, one other thing, we had a census in 2020, and sometimes in political jurisdictions, it changes the district lines. Is that going to affect our ward lines here in the city? What does that do for us?
It won't for this fall's election because we're just we don't have the data yet. So we're not going to be able to update that, but we will rebalance those wards probably by the end of the year or first part of next year based on the information we get, which again, we don't have yet, but that will also happen at the county level with their districts, county commissioner districts. And so we try to balance it by population. Last time, 10 years ago, it was pretty easy. We just slid one neighborhood over from Ward 1 into Ward 2, and that was pretty easy. I don't know what it'll look like this time, but there's been a lot of growth. We think we'll probably be somewhere in the mid 80,000 population, which is pretty significant, and we'll have to see how it works out. But we will go through and rebalance and make the wards roughly the same number in terms of population in each.
Great. Gentlemen, thank you for taking the time out to give us an update. We appreciate your service, your time, and look forward to doing this again in about a year. I'd also like to thank Creed Henderson and his crew at WCTV for making us look good every month. Tom Lawrence and the crew over at WAKM make sure that we can be heard around the county as well. And we appreciate financial support from AT&T, Dennis Wagner over at AT&T and his support, as well as Lynn Maddox and Vanderbilt University. Lynn is our local liaison there, and she does an excellent job of staying in touch with our community here, and we appreciate all those entities do for us. Couldn't do it, obviously, without a lot of support behind the scenes from the chamber staff, headed up by Matt Largent. Kel McDowell's the quarterback, and he makes sure we all know how to get on Zoom. It's Kel, we appreciate your help. Nancy Conway's my secret informer to keep me informed on what's going on around the county, and Nancy, appreciate your help there. And then Jenna, of course, gets the word out for us. So, gentlemen, again, appreciate everybody that makes this possible. Look forward to being back on June 25th, and hope to have the mayor and city administrator from the city of Nolensville this next month. So look forward to that, and we will look forward to seeing you all again in about a year. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks for having us.